Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. I'm Biola Alabi, and with me is Victoria Pepples.
Yeah.
We're going now to Venture Garden Group, a leading technology company partnered with Space Finish to design their new headquarters located at the former Concord Printing Press. With over 25,000 square meters of warehouse grounds to play with, they have been able to create a dynamic workspace that meets the diverse work styles of over 300 employees. Venture Garden Group is one of the leading financial funding companies in Nigeria when you're supporting and creating an accelerator to support startups. We're so excited to have Nichole here today, who is going to be telling us more about Venture Garden Group,
yes.
VGG.
Yes.
And you're wearing
my
Vibranium Valley.
Yes.
Okay, so Vibranium Valley is one of these names that everyone who saw Black Panther knows. And everyone is excited by the idea that there's Vibranium Valley in Nigeria.
Absolutely.
So tell us, so before we go into even what you do,
yes.
tell us how you guys came up with this name.
So, I mean, we looked at it that we were trying to be this core company in Nigeria that was not only growing our own fintech businesses, but investing in others, like Minds.io, actually. We're an early investor over 2 years ago in Minds. So we invested in companies like Flutterwave.
Well, so congratulations to you, too.
Thank you. Thank you. I told her earlier, I was like, you're making me money.
Very good.
So because we're investing in these companies, we're also being this central ecosystem for, you know, investors looking to come in from all over the world. It's not Silicon Valley because it's a different model that works in Africa. And so how do you get this African nature in with, you know, the Silicon Valley experience of VC and technology and this fast-paced business?
How could you answer that question? How do you do it? It's different from Silicon Valley.
Yeah,
different models.
Because it's absolutely different models. We're always solving our own problems, right? So in the Valley, you could say, oh, I need this juicer, and they can go and raise $100 million to create some kind of fancy new juicer. What people are solving here is I need energy, I need access to credit, I need to be able to move money and pay for my goods. So just basic things that are, you know, impacting us in our daily lives are what people are solving for here.
So there's Vibranium Valley, there's Venture Garden Group, and there's GreenHouse.
GreenHouse Capital and GreenHouse Lab.
So tell us what those all mean and how they're sort of in this ecosystem.
Absolutely. So Venture Garden Group was started 8 years ago by Bumi Akiyamiju and Kumi Demoran. And so VGG's core is this whole idea of data to cash. So we don't know what we don't know. So how do you use that information to now make money for everybody in the ecosystem? So we grew that out, raised $20 million in 2015, continued to use that to expand our presence, but then we said we can't solve all of the problems ourselves. So how do we find other brilliant entrepreneurs and help them, you know, get to commercial banks, help them expand across the continent and grow, just basically, you know, spur this growth in this ecosystem. So we started GreenHouse Capital. So we use that to now invest into early stage companies, and we've done 14 deals so far. So you had last year with Flutterwave that raised $10 million. You have Suregis this year.
So you guys were an early investor in Flutterwave.
So they made me 7 times my money.
Okay,
right?
very
and
nice.
then you have Suregis, who just had the largest initial coin offering. So you know this whole Bitcoin crypto.
Yes,
so they had the largest in Africa still till date. So we invested them, very early investors into them as well. Invest into Helium Healthcare. So again, technology around the healthcare management system.
And Helium Healthcare does?
So they basically digitize patient records.
Okay.
And so they're in hundreds of hospitals across Nigeria, and they're basically helping you, you know, here's patients that come in for this. You can track diseases, you can track medicine, you can track all of that life cycle around a patient, so you have real healthcare information, right?
But some of that data can also feed into Minds, which is basically when you pay and how you pay your bills, hospital bills.
You're actually helping startups.
Yes.
And that is different from, and that's what the commercial banks say they do, but the but it's different. The interest rates are crazy. It's a bit different. So tell us, how are you?
Sorry,
different?
I just want to make sure we get this right before we go on.
Yeah.
So GreenHouse Capital operates as a VC fund within, as a part of VGG.
Yeah, so it's more of an investment holding company, because that's
Okay.
where we start saying it's different. If you have a traditional fund structure, they live for 7 years, 9 years, and they give their returns. But in Africa, people say, why put my money into a company instead of real estate where I'll get rent every year?
Sure.
So we've created this investment holding company. Every time you exit a deal, you give investors cash. So they're now getting cash, you know, on an annual basis or every 2 years, every 3 years. So they feel a little bit more comfortable instead of saying, hey, let me wait 7 to 9 years before I see how the entire fund did. So that's another tweak we talk about making from the Valley to what is now Vibranium Valley in Africa.
And so, sorry, just the fund. I mean, which I know we're going to sit down and have a discussion, another discussion later. But when you take a look at the fund, is that fund full of local investors?
That's absolutely.
And therefore, so that's why you have the need for perpetual exits. Okay.
Exactly. And so because we had a lot of local investors initially, and foreign investors want to see local people put money in.
Yes.
So that's another key thing that we do when we're in the round. It gives comfort because I can drive up to their office and make sure that everything is okay. I can make introductions to commercial banks if you want to, sell your technology there. I can make connections to hospitals if you want to do that versus you're coming in from the US or the UK. You may not have that local context. So these are other important things about that space. And now for us, we talk about GreenHouse Lab. I looked at my portfolio and I said, only 2, and actually the number's increasing now because, of Adia at Minds and Lara, this Journeying Sure group, that is now more women-led in these founding C-suite teams, but it's not good enough for me. Black women only received, 0.2% of VC funding in the world.
Yes.
And again,
that's not enough.
At all, because
we need
the
more.
return on investment for women-led businesses is actually 30% higher than, homogenous men teams. And so we now said, let's go out.
Why do you think that is, though?
No, because women are way more diligent. Women look at it and they want to do everything possible. And they're a lot more conservative in their projections sometimes. They're a lot more, mindful about, okay, I need to do these 10 steps to really make sure that I reach here versus a guy will come in and say, oh, yes, you want that? I can give you this. I can do this. I can do that. Versus women is a lot more diligent. And so it's just a smarter and so when we look at that, we said, now let's look at GreenHouse Lab. And so we were like, how are we going to do this? We want to find these amazing women that are making some kind of money, but they need to get to this next level. We need to attract a lot more investment. We need to polish them a little bit. We need to polish their businesses a little bit. So I approached Google and said, hey, can you partner with us?
Oh, cool.
And we became the first and only currently powered by Google accelerator in all of Africa, right? And so us and Google went out and said, women in Nigeria, apply. What we discovered, we had 100 applicants from 8 different countries, 16 different sectors, all again running on technology.
Wow.
And so we're like, okay, we can't do just Nigeria because it's an amazing company from Rwanda, amazing companies from outside. All right, Google, need your help again. Let's make this a little bit more Pan-African. And so the class just launched last week, and I am excited about what they will do for the next 3 months.
Give us a sample of the type of companies that you're seeing.
They're incredible. So you have, so your traditional fintech, which is what we do. So Bankly, for example, they use, the normal recharge cards that a lot of people use. You can use that same recharge card to start saving. And again, as you're building up these records and history to then feed into something like a Minds.io. You have Nicodemia, which I'm obsessed with because they teach you about local languages and they use cartoons. So the cartoon quality, I was making fun of people in Nollywood. I was like, that cartoon is better than the movies that you guys are. But it's teaching local languages. Why can it not be, you have Dora the Explorer and you now turn into someone that's teaching Igbo and kids all over the world.
Can identify.
Right? Exactly. So phenomenal company there. You have Social Lender, which I really like because it takes all your social media presence, it takes your connections, etc., to give you a credit score and use that. So,
okay, that's kind of what we were talking with the idea about.
Exactly.
Yes.
So, and they're already in South Africa and Nigeria.
Okay.
Yes, and so Cozy Homes is the company out of Rwanda. We all know the kind of stress when you're building out, building a home. And so they get you profiles from here's who your carpenter is, here's who your electrician is, here's all of this, here's stages of where you are in your project. So you can sit in the diaspora and be building a house in Lagos.
There's several platforms there, all to make life easier when it comes to financing and a lot of other things.
Absolutely.
Now, the belief in Nigeria for a long time is that it wasn't possible. You talked about building a house, being all the way somewhere and then building a house in Nigeria. You talk about monitoring. Can people actually trust that this works? Because you want to build your house, you engage the services of your company, they're monitoring. How can Nigerians believe that this is actually being monitored adequately and they're not spending more than they should
Absolutely.
on their project.
Absolutely. So that's the beauty about data, right?
Yes.
When you don't have real information, I could go and say, oh, these shoes are expensive because I'm using my only point of reference. However, if I now have information from Amazon, from this local, lady, from everybody, and I'm like, oh, actually, it's pretty relative price because you're able to compare. So everything in fintech is all about building trust and making sure that people are comfortable because they're getting a lot of different viewpoints. So that is everything that we talk about, is that base foundation. And so you bring in different data points, you bring in people that they know, people that they trust to kind of help you make those decisions. And that is just fundamentally what fintech is all about.
Do you have adequate attention for people concerning these various ventures that you're into? Do you have the desired people paying attention to what you're doing, giving you feedback and saying, okay, we want to be a part of this? Take the women, for instance. You had 100 across Africa, so you're now Pan-African. Tell me, how do you manage the attention you're getting? How do you keep the focus of these people? Because a lot of people say you start off one way and you're not able to finish. You're not able to. Nigeria, keeping the interest is really is important. How do you?
So I guess in a way, how are you working with the entrepreneurs to make sure that they're delivering the return on investment? Because you're investing in these companies.
Absolutely. So I invest in companies that I know I can almost buy your growth.
Okay.
So give an example. Right now, with some of the social programs that are happening, one of them, Jeep, which is what the federal government is doing to give loans, low interest loans to tradeswomen and farmers, $100K, $150K. So we had an opportunity to work on that project, and instead of it being just us, we took a company, Ribby, that we're invested in, and we took another company, AppZone. Ribby does savings and loans for cooperatives, which are in a lot of different rural areas. AppZone provides, banking software for a lot of microfinance banks, over 400 of them, and a lot of commercial banks. So how do you now connect the people in these rural areas and urban areas that want to access this federal government funding? So you take a company like Ribby, who had a couple of thousand people, in the beginning, to almost 1 million in months. So I know that by investing in you, I'm going to be able to help you scale. I'm going to be able to help you grow. And so when we look at all of these different people, we're saying, what is the right networks? What are the right mentors to bring? So for these 9 companies.
So you're really investing in companies that you can get network effects from, and you can also sort of very quickly expand the impact they're having.
So how much impact do you think you've made?
I think we've made a huge impact. So when I look here, whether it's IFC, and like I said, with Google, partnerships like Google, even at the Google for Nigeria event, Marvin Chow, who's the global VP of marketing, he was wearing our Vibranium Valley shirt. He came in to see this space, to see what kinds of companies we are bringing and producing out here across the continent. You know Venture Garden Group and you know GreenHouse because of the quality of companies that are coming out, that we've invested in. And when we went to do this lab, we said, hey, we need mentors across the world. And companies like Stripe, who don't even operate in Africa yet, are like, absolutely, we will send our team out there to help them learn about scaling the organization. Companies like IFC, USAID, everyone is like, absolutely, we will. They came to us to actually sit in our office to learn about what we wanted to do and how they could be a part of it.
So how much have you invested in sort of these small startups to date?
So for a lot of companies in GreenHouse, we deployed almost about $3 million into those companies within GreenHouse. And so, they've made me over 5 times my money in the last 2.5 years.
So you already are getting like 5 times that. So let me ask you another question. When you look at these companies that you've invested in, and you look at the size of these investments, and you look at sort of the future, what level of investments do they come in with, and sort of how many years of operations, and what type of, are they pre-revenue, post-revenue, where are they?
So we prefer post-revenue companies, and it doesn't mean post-revenue you need $1 million. It just means someone other than your family should have paid for your product, right? And so we need something that kind of somewhat works, but we know that there's huge potential. So we now tell you, okay, you're doing B2C. Can we help you get B2B so you can scale a little bit faster and then become a B2B2C type businesses? So someone that we can help you tweak your strategy. We can help you with your core issue. Is it monetization? Is it, assessing product market fit? Is it your customer acquisition or retention strategy? What are your real issues, right? And then from an investment perspective, we don't believe in the cold call, email everyone and say, ask me for money. So the company we're working with now, they're going to design a strategy, they're going to pick one, is going to tell them the type of investor that will put money into there, and they're going to only approach 3 to 5.
Okay.
They will not approach more.
So what I want to do is I want to talk more about sort of early stage funding and angel funding and what level you guys come in. But we're going to take a break. So when Adia comes back, I'm going to actually ask both of you so that you can actually share your experiences. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's time now for a short break on the morning show. I'll be sitting down with both Nichole Yembra and Adia Sow to review the state of investments, entrepreneurship, and how to empower more women across Africa and Nigeria. Stay with us.